chase budgets, not crowds. That's one of the lines from today's conversation that stuck me and was great to hear, because most speakers are doing the exact opposite. Bigger stages, bigger audiences, bigger feeds on social media, all of it optimizing for the wrong metric. The speakers quietly earning the most are often talking to rooms of 12 people in a boardroom, not 1,000 at a conference. Now, I did say that I would be bringing you an episode with Beth Sherman as my next episode. That episode is still coming. I've snuck this one in as it was a bit of a fast turnaround, and the reason why will become apparent very shortly. My guest is Elliot Kay, founder of the Speaker Awards, 7-time author, and someone who's seen what we just talked about play out across hundreds of speaker careers. Now, in this conversation, we get into positioning, ROI, why the information speaker age is over, and what actually gets you booked now. So a quick note, the Speaker Awards entries for 2026 close on the 30th of April, hence the fast turnaround. We're covering in this episode what the process gives you, why you might want to get yourself to the Speaker Awards, and all the details are at thespeakerawards.com. But for now, let's get into it. I am very happy to welcome to the Professional Speaking Podcast, Elliot Kay. Elliot, it's been a real delight to connect with you, and I'm so happy that we were able to get things set up super quick. Like, you've been on my list for such a long time, and then I thought, let's see if we can get Elliot on the show, and I invited you, and the next day we're chatting. It's pretty fantastic.
The speed of technology, eh? The speed.
It's a wonderful thing. And one of the main reasons, something I've been seeing, because I'm on your email list, something I've been seeing a lot lately is the Speaker Awards. And I think a lot of people who listen to this show may not have heard about it. So can you tell us a little bit about what that is and who it's for and why people might want to find out about it?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. The Speaker Award was born 5 years ago. We're coming into year 5. And really, it's about elevating and helping the industry have a standard, right? One of the best ways you create a standard for an industry is for awards. And it's for professional speakers. It's for people that make a living from speaking. If you are not regularly booked, but still charge a fee, it's for you. If you're regularly booked, you charge a fee, it's for you. If you charge a high fee, it's for you, right? And the way it works is we have 19 judges. We have various categories, 3 judges per category. You submit your video footage, up to 5 minutes, unless it's the TEDx category. And then it goes in front of a panel. It's an independent panel. I'm not involved in the panel. I am not a judge. I cannot influence nor sway anything. And then what happens after that is, if they are chosen to the shortlist, they're invited, of course, to come and attend the gala in London. We set it up because I felt that there was a gap where people weren't getting the spotlight where they should have, or there was no public body that was giving awards out. There were membership bodies that were doing their own awards, but there was nothing public. And that's why I set them up, the Speaker Awards. And that was November 22 was the first one. And here we are, year 5, July the 3rd is the next one. And that's really what that's about.
I love that you're doing this. I think the only thing I'd ever really seen for awards for speakers before was like the Toastmasters World Championship. And that was kind of it. Like, is that it? Is that So it's really nice that you're doing this. What value or benefit is there in being in the awards, though, for professional speakers, other than a bit of recognition?
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. So obviously recognition is one, but here's the feedback we've been getting, and I've kind of been sharing a lot about. Number one, the process itself. It's a very robust process. So a lot of professional speakers get absolute clarity on who they are as a speaker. So that helps get rid of the trimmings or the fluff, so to speak. Even really established speakers find the process, it gets you really dialed in and focused on literally who you are as a speaker. What do you stand for? What's your message? So a lot of speakers have talked about that. Then obviously when that's the internal thing. And then once you get through the rounds, then it validates that positioning. So the shortlisting validates it, and then highly commended or winning validates that. So I think the whole process itself allows you as a professional speaker to really almost cleanse or redirect or refocus who you are as a speaker. And then beyond that, you get the market validation. What we've seen when people have won or gone through the process is they've seen the conversations change, their ability to position themselves change. If you're shortlisted or highly commended or you win, again, the conversations change around fees, bookability, and things like that. So look, John, it's not for everyone.
Sure.
Awards aren't for everyone. We don't handcuff people and force them to enter. But for those who choose to, and we get some very high caliber speakers enter, we get bureaus put people in. It is, I guess, in a way, an external validation that the market
Right.
appreciates you, that they recognize you. Yeah. So those are some of the benefits of entering the awards. And I know it comes with skepticism. I know there's skeptical people out there, and we welcome skepticism, by the way.
Awards can be kind of nice. And I think that you mentioned some other, I think, benefits that are valuable. There are a lot of speakers who will have things listed on their profiles like award-winning speaker, but you don't, like, they won table topics at the last Toastmasters meeting. Or what? It could be anything. But this is at least a little more credibility, especially given that you've been running this year after year. And from some of the content I've seen you sending out, that you do have people like bookers and bureaus in the room as well that could be really valuable connection opportunities for speakers as well.
Yeah, so we have Dom from London Speaker Bureau. We have Claire Young, who runs the biggest speaker agency for putting speakers in schools. We've got a guy in America this year from Campus Speaks, a guy called David Stallman, and he places speakers at university campuses across America. I'm sure there's Kay Freeman. She's a speaker agent. I'm sure there's others. I know there are. We have 19 judges. I'm apologizing for any judge listen, and I haven't listed you. I apologize. Yeah, and it's interesting because Maria Franzoni, who's our ambassador.
I do. She's been on the
Do you
show.
know
Yeah.
Maria? Do you know Maria? Yeah. Yeah, so she's our ambassador, and she always said from the word go, she said, you have to, if you want this award to be taken seriously, you need the bureaus to get involved. You need the agents to put their name behind it. And now we've done that. It does add a massive amount of kudos to it. And we even have a Booker's Choice Award. So that's a category that people enter for bureaus to judge their content. So that's a pretty good category.
No, I think also even just connecting with other speakers from different areas is incredibly valuable. Speakers refer other speakers a lot as well. And, is that referral, that being known, I think I talk about a lot, is how important it is now to become known. And these are the kinds of things that can really give you significant boosts in that kind of factor of credibility and people having some idea who you are who might otherwise not.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, we've got the bureaus and the agents. We also have Humour PSA presidents. We've had, everybody in there is in the industry. This isn't, people that just, oh, I want to be a judge. They have to bring a certain amount of expertise. We've got someone who's on The Apprentice, and he's got quite an interesting story because he entered the very first year we did the awards and he didn't show up. And when he actually came to the awards last year, and I was like, why didn't you come? He said, I was too broke. I couldn't afford the ticket. And now so it's a real full circle. Now he's come back to be a judge because he couldn't afford the ticket. And now he's come back as a judge. Obviously, he's been on The Apprentice, and he goes around training CEOs and high-level people now and speaking. So everybody has their place there, right? So that's really important. The other thing just to pick up on, John, is how much there's a sense of community around the awards. When I set up the awards, part of my fear was, the room's going to be full of egos and, almost going to be quite catty. But actually, none of that transpired. And year on year, people come back because actually people do celebrate each other's success. They are genuinely happy for other people. Of course, they're disappointed for themselves. But everybody talks about the inclusion, the diversity, and the sense of community that around the Speaker Awards. And I think that's what really makes it unique, right? Because we really do, like, our key motto is back yourself, right? And that goes throughout. And even on the night, you stand and go, look, well done. You've gone for it. You've backed yourself. Let's celebrate that. And we do see, generally speaking, most people be happy for the people that win. And that's a really unique thing to get. I love that. It makes, in fact, it's everything.
I've been having speakers on this show for, at least 5 years. And I have to say, for the most part, the people I connect with are very generous with their time, their knowledge, their information, not so ego driven. And I have tended to weed out the people who are but I do think that they're generally fewer and far between. So I'm very glad to hear that that event has come together nicely for you. But I do tend to feel that the speaking industry, from my experience, is n- not most of the people, much like podcasting, podcasting world, most people are not so ego driven. They're more service driven, more connection driven, and that's always nice to see. But of course, you're always going to get the odd diva. So that's great. Yeah, I certainly
Yeah.
like what you're doing with this. And if anyone is interested in being a part of the Speaker Awards, what should
Well, as this is being recorded, I don't know when it's going to
fast
be released.
turnaround,
There's
because
a
it's
week.
coming up.
You can do it fast. So there's a week. Excuse me. There's a week to go today. So it's the 23rd, 30th it closes. What they need to do is go to speakawards.com. Everything's on there. There's loads of resources. You'll need a video of 5 minutes if you're going for one of the categories, or 8 to 10 minutes for the TEDx category. Just have your bio ready, have the stuff ready. Again, we show you how to do it all. There is an admin fee. Hands up, there's an admin. It's £18
so
per
bad.
category. You can't enter more than 3 categories. Exactly. And by the way, for all the skeptics out there, the £80 is not to win an award.
Right.
It's to enter the award. And the administration side of running awards. That's all it's for. Because we always get it. Oh, how much does it cost to buy an award? Well, you don't, right? You're not paying to win an award. You're paying to enter the awards. And that's it. And so I suggest get your skates on, get involved. You never know where you could land. Back yourself. You've got a week to go on whenever this is released. Be in it. And, worst case, you get nothing. Best case, you get shortlisted. Next best case, you get highly commended and you win. And you meet some incredible people. So that's
And if anyone listening to this has missed out on the deadline for this year, there's always going to be next year, hopefully, right?
There is always going to be next year, although there might be an announcement coming as to its location. But
So
there's
this one
always
is going to
gonna
be in London, though, right?
So yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3rd of July in London, Leonardo Hotel by St. Paul's. Beautiful scenery, beautiful hotel. So I'm told. I'm yet to see it. My team chose it. So I'm like, this better be good. This better be a good hotel.
Look forward to seeing some of the pictures and videos from that event as well. I'm not going to be able to attend myself this year, unfortunately, but I will certainly do my best to get there next year, and maybe even enter myself
Okay,
in.
cool.
Who knows? That would be cool. So I love that. Elliot, I know you do training and stuff as well for people, and you do have like some connections with and experience in the wider speaking industry. And I wonder for you, what maybe comes up as being some of the most relevant areas for speakers to be paying attention to right now in the industry in terms of getting the bookings and progressing their careers.
Okay, 2 things straight away. One is emphasizing the problem you're solving as a speaker to the corporates or to your market. And the next, there's a massive push towards an ROI. So what's the return on the investment by booking you? And they want data. They want something tangible, right? Because of AI, because of information, companies aren't interested anymore. Of course, if you're an inspirational, motivational speaker, and that's where you put yourself, that's okay. But what people are really looking for is the ability to have implementables. So that's why the problem you solve has to be crystal clear. And that might mean a bit like the process for the award, shedding some stuff, right? Get very crystal clear on the problem you solve. Then how are you going to demonstrate a return by solving that problem? What's going to be different? Now, to begin with, obviously, a lot of speakers won't have had that yet because they haven't been collecting it. So you can forward front it as in this is what you get by booking me. But as you do it more and more, right, I would suggest you collect the data, whether that's follow-up calls, whether you have a way of measuring that, whether you start to use Slido and you measure people when they come in and they come out. I mean, whether you put AI up that films their faces as they go and leave. I mean, there's so many ways these days, but that's those are the key shifts I'm seeing in the industry, especially for paid speaking, is proof of return. And I think that's very worth highlighting.
That's really good to know. A useful pointer as well. For you yourself,
So I guess I'm a bit cliched in the way that, ironically, we were talking about Gemma that we both know. So the week I met her, I went to a seminar and I saw a guy on stage and I went, I can do that. And so then I enrolled in the course that Gemma was putting on for speakers. And that's how I got started. And that was 2009. And it's in the cliche in the sense I saw a man on stage and went, I can do that. And then I did. I went after it. So that's the cliche. It's like, I could do that. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. And I wasn't quite aware on how much goes into it. But that's how I got started. And then it wasn't a couple of years later, we launched what is still kind of going, Speaker Express, which has been going now for over a decade. But that's being phased out. And yeah, so I've done loads of trainings. I became a trainer for that company for a while as well. So that's how I got started. I can do that. That's how.
I do think a lot of people think that, I don't think that was where I probably realized, I think maybe speaking is something that I might want to do a bit more than training. And it was a bit of a journey from there, but it's still something I love. However, I would say getting up to do stand-up comedy was something as like watching other people doing it, thinking, I think I could do that. It was just,
You see, I look at.
it was just that thing
No.
of, my only worry was, are other people going to find the stuff that's in my head that I think is funny? Are other people going to think that's funny as well? And that's what I didn't know. That was like the unknown variable for me. It turned out mostly yes. So it's been quite good. But
I
yeah,
know
it was
that.
very much that similar thing of,
You see,
yeah, I think
I can do that. I think I could do that. But when I look at comedians, I don't think I can. I don't know. People do sound very funny, but I'm very kind of funny off the cuff. I'm not sure I could be deliberately funny. But then again, I've never explored it. But I don't know if I have a desire to do comedy. Because even people go, oh, you should be a comedian. You're so funny. Right. But I think even I had a comedian watch me once. And he's like, you are really good off the cuff. But then to package that and take that to become a show.
maybe like those audience work comedians. But no, for me, it was on my bucket list. It was something that I wanted to do.
Wow.
So I'm
Right.
glad
Well
I
done,
did it.
you.
Like now it's just something I really enjoy doing and do it like once or twice a month. So it's kind of cool.
Wow. Well, that's the key, isn't it? Enjoying
Absolutely.
it.
But let me see, when it comes to your speaking, I mean, you're an entertaining speaker. One of the things I often ask people about on the show is how important that sort of entertainment humor factor is in being a speaker. From your perspective, what would you say? How essential is that?
First of all, I'm so happy you think I'm entertaining. Thank you. On the other side, look, I think it's quite important. Obviously, it depends what kind of speaker you are. I think your style. I think there's time to use humor. I think most talks could use humor, even if it's very dark. I think it's quite important because, look, the other side, of course, when you asked about speaking, is my mind went to how much people are craving connection, emotional engagement, because people are growing more and more skeptical online with online contact, even videos. People are skeptical now because of AI. So in the room, the more you can make people feel, smile, move their face, up, down, sideways in the way that they're going with you, the stronger, more connected you'll be as a speaker. So in terms of entertaining, I mean, you're not booked for entertainment, right? If you're an entertainer, that's different. Go on Britain's Got Talent or do that kind of world. But when you're a speaker, I think it's important to have a level of entertainment. It's got to have a level of humor. It's definitely got to have a level of emotional connection. When I've interviewed a lot of the judges recently for the Speaker Awards, they all talk about the importance of delivery, of emotional connection, about authenticity, about not being someone else, right? And I think when I do my talks, I always think, how can I make it? Where can I make it entertaining? Where can I be funny, right? I do think of that consciously. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes it's tumbleweed. I'm like, okay, you're that kind of audience, right? But I think it's very important. I think a lot of, if you want to stand out as well, right? Because it is like for every speaking slot, let's say there are 10 speakers, if not more. The way to stand out is to be really entertaining, is to be very engaging, is to be very, at times, funny or able to take the audience on a journey. And I think, especially in the UK, I think we can often miss that trick. We kind of become very professional and serious and executive-like and, showing up in a certain way is unprofessional. And I don't think that's true anymore. The pandemic was a great leveler. It leveled everybody, right? And I think since then, there's been a change, an emergence, and a need to be a different type of speaker, a connected speaker, an authentic speaker, an imperfect speaker, right? People love imperfection. They love it when you get slightly wrong. Won't that take away my authority? No, people, in fact, enhance your authority because it humanizes you, right? So I think, entertainment is great. And I think if you look back at some of the speakers that made you feel good and you really connected with, guaranteed they had an element of entertainment in there.
Like a compulsory element, but I think it's good to have in there, even if it's just a few moments or just even lightness or smiling sometimes. It's those emotional shifts that I think are really important, and what they call the state changes, and that take people just from being at one level the whole time. I spoke not that long ago with David Newman. You possibly have encountered. Yeah, you've heard of him.
I've heard of them.
And so that shows,
Yeah.
that episode is coming soon for our listener. But one of the things that he was saying, and he's definitely very authoritative on this issue as well. But one of the things he was saying is that the age of the information speaker is over. Is that yes?
100%. That's what I mean about the problem you solve and implementables and ROI. We've got information. We've got information coming out of every hole you can think of, right? It's just there. That's why when they're looking for a speaker, they want something else. Entertainment is an element, implementables are an element, and ROI. I absolutely agree with that. 100%. The information, those who just stand there go, here's the 5 steps. Or because if I'm paying a speaker, right, 5 grand, whatever grand, right, to come into my company, I don't want my staff or whoever just to feel better, right? I need to know they're going to do better. They're going to be better. They're going to do something different. And that's why the information speakers over.
But a great answer, and I think I'm pretty much on. Well, first of all, could you share with us what it is you talk about and how you came to be talking about that?
So I spent a lot of times in the impactful communication space. So I was very much leadership communication. How do you inspire teams? How do you unite people through language? And I used to use also something called the 12 archetypes of communication. So that's the different parts of yourself that you step into as a speaker or communicator to get a message across. I've now evolved, so I'm shifting the angle slightly because I'm about to release my 7th book on the 3rd of July, funny enough, at the summit and the awards. Yeah, and it's called Watch Me Go. And it's about mentality and an attitude. You know, you've got to start with whys, let them. It's kind of in that mold. And it's basically the attitude that served me towards success and growth and struggle. And that's really what my new keynote's been. And it's funny because I was talking to on Maria's podcast recently, and it's the most personal one I've ever done. So while I've always been quite, here's how you practically communicate, here's the steps, and here's how you speak like a leader, right? I'm going, well, here's my stories that had the most impactful that I feel are right for audiences. And the idea with them is there's a massive shift mentally to utilize watch me go, right? So it's a non-permissive, non-aggressive, slightly defiant attitude. When someone goes, John, I don't think you'll be a comedian, you go watch me, right? Now, I can't promise that you will be the next Michael McIntyre or whoever you're inspired by and do the big rooms, but you'll land somewhere better as a result, right? I don't know where that is. And that's what Watch Me is about. So right now, that's my focus, is doing the Watch Me. And I'm not purposely not targeting a lot of the sort of conferences that I used to, because actually I want to get the gigs that allow me to share that message of watch me, like let them, like start with why. And that's a slightly different audience. But interestingly, since I've gone more personal, I've become more bookable. So that's quite interesting. So that's what I speak about. So, you know,
It sounds good, and does definitely sound engaging. Got a lot of connection coming into that as well. I think the authenticity piece is probably good news for a lot of us, maybe challenging for some others who are thinking, oh, I don't know about that. I just want to be this like persona on stage rather than myself. But I do think one of the first times I ever went to like a personal development training back in the early 2000s is right when I first got into all that. Seeing some of the people on stage like could be great performers, but it was performance. And very often when you saw them off stage, they were not like that. They were completely different. Some of them very socially awkward, some of them very prickly. It could be anything in between. A handful of them probably were very authentic, and yet now that seems to be much more essential. And I wonder if like that has been one of the key things in that shift in the industry of, as you said, the suspicion of the slickness and the people getting burnt by stuff, now to sort of thinking, well, we want the people who are who are walking their talk, who are genuine, who actually are pretty much the same off stage as they are on it.
Yeah, I think again, I think that the pandemic contributed to the desire for authenticity because I think also, while there was this amazing rise in people supporting people throughout the pandemic, there's equally a rise in people being conned and putting on shows, right? And I think, the personal development space we both kind of were in for a while. Again, you get these great speakers who then lead you to buy stuff. And some genuinely wanted to help. And again, lots of people got conned. And I think what's happened, I mean, I'm not in that space anymore at all. I kind of completely moved out of that. Yeah, because again, I brought that. It didn't sit right with me, a lot of it. And I kind of got I got no regrets from being a part of it. I think it's helped me become who I am, a better person. When I moved into the more professional, getting paid to speak side of things, that's a lot better, a lot easier to kind of, well, here's 45 minutes of my expertise. I'm going to get paid that. I'm not leading anyone. I'm not tricking anyone. Here's my expertise and you're paying me for it. It's a fair exchange, right? So to your point, I think with the pandemic and everything has gone on and people being stung and they're looking for something real. And even with the rise of AI, which we started to allude to, they want something real. That's what I'm saying. Imperfection is currency, right? People want you to kind of mess up a little bit. You need to be a bit raw. You need to kind of go, oh, that didn't work then. All right, let's move on. And people love that moment, right? As long as you're not a liar or a thief or manipulative, people really appreciate authenticity, the realness. It actually elevates you. And again, it gets you to stand out because you're not a cutout. You're not trying to be, you're not sounding like everyone else. And I think that's so important. I think, everyone, you can only be yourself. Everyone else is taken, like a whole saying, Oscar Wilde, right? It's so true as a speaker. Like, stop trying to be another speaker. Be yourself. Now, I know some people need to be braver. They need to be a watch me in their life. But I think that's so important. And again, I think since the pandemic, the craving for realness, authenticity, genuine desire to help and be helped, that's gone up a notch.
And I think it's also one of the reasons why we've seen decline in the shiny, slick people, the people trying to sell the millionaire, billionaire lifestyle. They're filming their videos leaning on a Lamborghini in a big mansion, wherever else. It's like that seems to have mostly disappeared, thankfully, and it's much more about connection now. Let me ask you, I mean, you encounter a lot of speakers, I'm sure with the Speaker Awards, but also in other parts of your life when you're training and whatever else. What I wonder whether there's might be some commonalities we'll come across here, but what are the most common misconceptions or things that a lot of speakers, perhaps more early on in their careers, just don't get right? Because this is one of those industries where there's no one way into this. It's like there's a multitude of ways. There's no one to become a speaker. But what are some of the things you see people doing and that it's like, oh, that's probably not going to get you the results, really?
I think the biggest thing I see is positioning or mispositioning, right? I think the number one thing that opens the door, gets you booked, gets you paid, is your positioning, right? And if you get that wrong or slightly off center or too general, that's the biggest thing I see. Like, if you get your positioning right, everything else kind of falls in line. Because your talk stems from your positioning, your show reel stems from positioning, your website, like it all falls in line. But if you don't get the positioning right, then that doesn't help. So number one would be positioning. And the other thing is the lack of repositioning. So I see people, hi, I'm John and I'm this speaker, but you were that speaker 3 years ago. The audience has moved on, the market's changed, and so they don't evolve. I mean, a few times, I don't get this as much anymore, but I used to get bookings. I'm not getting bookings anymore. You must hear that. And then I'm like, when is the last time you reposition yourself? Like, oh, no, I haven't. How old's your show reel? 3 years. Well, that would explain a lot of things because it's not relevant anymore. So I think relevancy, Maria bangs on about it, and it's so true. Relevancy is also, so if you're not moving with the times and you haven't upgraded, then you become irrelevant. So then you're not going to get booked, right? And the last thing is probably speakers getting really comfortable with where they are, and they don't then invest in becoming a better deliverable, right? They don't get better at delivery. Now, I get there's time to, to go and execute. And maybe you spend a year or two just delivering, pow, pow, pow. But there's got to come a time where you stop and go, right, how can I improve this? How can I make this better? And I see a lot of speakers don't do that. And again, what happens is you get a more energetic, more vibrant, or a different version or a better version coming to market, and they'll take your space, right? So that's the other thing I think is, and I want to see more women on stages. Like I'm a huge champion of that. I want to see more women on stages because, I think it's just time that women took more front stage and lead.
I definitely think that more when I'm on the comedy stages as well, because there's so few, there's so few on the scene.
Exactly. But, it's the same with speaking, isn't it? It's like, I just want to see more women back themselves, but equally I want to see more bookers booking women, and for the same fee as men. There's absolutely no reason why they should.
100%. It's interesting that I think the what you just went through with their positioning, I mean, it's pretty much my clients on as well into speaking. We get what they're going to, the problem and all that, carried that over from my time with Speaker Lab, but we get all that in place. We get the positioning, we get the business engine and then later on we're going to work on turning up all the dials for you on stage for how you deliver that. But that I think most people seem to get that the other way around and just think it's all about the stage. It's all about the time that you're on there, and that's like a small part.
That's almost the end of it, isn't
That's really a small part. So I wonder for you, like, I guess my continuation from that would be what your pipeline to speaking looks like now, and how did you build up through to get that? Like, is it more referral based now, or do you still do a lot of prospecting? And did you have to do a lot to get to that position in the first place?
I've got to admit that prospecting right now is taking a bit of a backseat, and it's only because the awards and the summit is taking so much of my time. So I am not right now pursuing as much as I used to. Just hands up there, honest, real. That's the truth. But in terms of so there's two things. One is presence. So I'm very present on LinkedIn, and a lot of bookings come through that, through seeing my content. And please remember, everybody listening, please remember, the people that are likely to book you won't comment. They'll just reach out. That's what I found. Like, they never comment on my stuff. They just reach out. So having
people lurk on LinkedIn a lot.
They'll lurk, but just be aware of that. So for me, presence is key, like continuous, consistent presence. That's helped build my pipeline. Referrals is one, doing a great job, but also asking, look, do you know someone else that could benefit from this? If you do a good job, people would love to refer you. So don't think that people don't want to. And the other thing is partnerships, right? So we have a strong partnership strategy, and that has helped massively with my pipeline. Because, again, one of the key feedbacks we get from winners and professional speakers that enter the awards, it's a lonely journey on your own. You're kind of dealing with rejection half the time. If speakers are honest, they deal far more with rejection than they do with success. Most speakers, unless you're the 1%ers, right? But partnerships is a great way to caveat that. Partnerships and stuff like that. I will get my away game, my outreach away game back up soon, but just right now I'm focusing on the awards. But those are some ways I've done it. The other thing, of course, to remember, everyone listening to this, is people need to see you speak, right? If you're a speaker, you need to be putting stuff that demonstrates your speaking. And again, I find a lot of speakers talk about mistakes is they don't put enough of their speaking in the front window. They're kind of sitting there hoping that someone will find it, or hoping that they'll get spotted, or if they put one video a month out, that should be enough to guarantee them a year's worth of bookings. No, you should be putting a video a day out for a month, and then that might guarantee your bookings. And so I think that's another missing part. That's how I get my bookings. Partnerships, continue. I don't know if it's omnipresence. Let's just call it presence, consistent presence, and referrals.
I do sometimes find myself on prospecting calls with people where they're talking about, like, what you're doing at the moment to get bookings if they're not coming through. Like, what actually is happening. And very commonly is things like when I'm on LinkedIn, I'm posting regularly, I'm commenting on other people's posts, and like, well, and nothing's happening with that. Yeah, I'm not sure it would be. Like, what were you putting up there for people to really see what you can do, and what, to actually really engage with it, and maybe a bit of leadership, thought leadership, and those sorts of things. So I think thought leadership is one of those expressions we're sort of moving away from now. But it's that really is that presence there. But ultimately, you're waiting by the inbox, hoping that somebody will reach out to you. And I think that's a very passive way to try and build up a speaking business if you don't already have some momentum. And you have to have that
Yeah,
momentum, and you
absolutely.
have to be showing up. And I think, as you say, showing what you can do, because that's what people want to see. And that's really where they get more likely to go, all right, I think we might need to reach out to you because that looks good. It's an interesting world there are still people who think that it's going to come to them if they just do the right things,
Yeah.
that you do have to get yourself out there. For me it's very fascinating to talk to you about this, and I wonder whether there are, like, if you have any particular words of advice or even encouragement for people who are perhaps earlier in the journey or in that position of not getting the level of bookings or speaking that they would like to have at the moment.
Yeah, I think work with someone like you. Number one, would give my advice. Of course, you're very welcome. And the other thing is, if you're not getting the booking or the flow of bookings, I think, take a step back. First of all, don't personalize it. It's not a reflection of you as a person or your ability. Don't beat yourself over the head. Be kind to yourself about it. It's not an easy journey. Putting yourself out there continuously, it's hard. And you're up for scrutiny, and always in someone else's hands because they're going to make the decision whether to book you or not. So don't personalize it, right? Because there's so many factors. I was actually talking to someone before we met. They're building this cool speaker tool, right? Which will help them. It's an AI thing which will find gigs for them. And I said, you don't lead with the premise, if you spend this, you're going to get this, because there's so many factors in between that could affect that. And then you're going to get cancellations because they'll blame the software. They'll blame the AI. So what I'd like to say to everybody who, number one, review your positioning, right? Are you too general? Are you far? Very few times, John, you probably find this, very few times are people too niched. It's normally you're too general, right? The other thing I would say then is, really lead with the problem you solve, not how brilliant you are. And I think that's another, if we talk about mistakes or things people kind of get wrong, let's just assume you're inspirational. Let's assume you're motivational, right? Tell me the problem you're going to solve by booking you. Tell me the takeaways, the tangible takeaways as a result of booking me or you, right? Those are the key things I would look at. And then, is it time to refresh? Does your brand, because you're a personal brand, whether you like it or not, does your brand need an upgrade, right? Not you as a person, but the outlooking brand. And also, are you showing up in the right places? LinkedIn is where the bookers are. You might be on Instagram, on TikTok, which is good too, but LinkedIn is where the bookers are. And the last thing I'll say is chase budgets, not size, right? Because, often you'll find that some of the best paid gigs are 12 people in a room, and they'll versus 100 people in a conference. And the last thing I will add to that is, are you building relationships with potential bookers? I literally relate. Are you getting on Zooms with them? Do they know who you are? Because I think, again, if we go back to mistakes a lot of speakers make or don't do, like you talked about sitting there waiting, well, actually, it's a relational business. People refer people they know, like, and trust in the speaking world. People will think about you if they know who you are. It's not enough that they've read a post of yours. If they got a feel like for you, if they got, a sense of your energies, then they're more like, oh, yeah, Elliot, let's get him in. And I think these are some of the things to really consider if you're not
That's
getting.
some great advice and pointers there, Elliot. Thank you. One final question then to kind of that. I had a client who recently, when we started working together, said to me, "I'm worried that the speaking industry is kind of going to be over because of AI, and is all going to come to an end. So I'm trying to get in there now while I can. Do you think it's going to end?" I'm going to ask you that question. What do you think is the future of the speaking industry?
We've been talking about this a lot lately, and here's I think what's going to happen is not a backlash, but a movement away. I think people are going to crave more and more live events. They're going to crave more and more connection, because it's been proven even the data is showing that the internet's plateaued. Gen Z are kind of, they're not posting as much. They're spending more time in sort of dark silos, i.e. WhatsApp, or places where they can't be monitored, or they're not posting. So actually there's a craving for real life connection. I think, looking at that data, looking at things, I think actually speaking is going to go up. People want more live events because they're going to crave human connection more. Real human connection. They want to touch, feel, smell. Not in a pervy, horrible way.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, people are going to want that more because of the skepticism around what's being posted. Because of AI, I think people are going to go more to live.
I'm inclined to agree with you, and I guess we'll see what the future holds when we get there. Elliot, I'm actually looking forward to. I didn't know you had several books out. I'm going to go and check some of them out. I may be getting back in touch with you to come and discuss some of the content from those. But I definitely like the Stand Still Watch Me stuff that you're working on. The Speaker Award stuff sounds amazing as well, and definitely something like I hope people encourage other people to go and check out too. And just for our listener, like if they want to check out the Speaker Awards, they want to find out more about you, your books, like what's the best way for them to get more information?
Speaker Awards is the speakerawards.com. So just go on the website, have a read, apply. And then if you want to find it, I think LinkedIn is probably, if you go on my LinkedIn, Elliot Kay, spelled properly Kay, and with one T as in ELLIOT, Kay. There's a couple of my books on my page. That's the best way, I think. Otherwise, I'm going to be sending over to all these other websites.
Let's keep it
Elliot
simple.
Kay on LinkedIn. Let's keep it simple. And if you have a question, just reach out to me, say hello. And then,
Fantastic. Well, Elliot, I certainly will hope to have you on the show again in the future, but it's been an amazing conversation today, very valuable, lots of good stuff in there that I hope people have been making notes, and certainly there's going to be stuff in the show notes. All the links will be there, everything for people to check you out, and the summaries of what we talked about today. And wish you the best of luck with the upcoming Speaker Awards. I hope it's an amazing event.
Thank you.
A great episode with Elliot there, and we'll definitely look to have him back in the future as well. But everything we talked about, plus the links to the awards, Elliot's LinkedIn, and his books, you'll find in the show notes. Now, if you're considering entering, well, you haven't got much time, so don't leave it late. The April 30th cutoff is not that far away. Now, if you missed it for this year, don't panic. They will be back next year. 2 quick asks before you go. Firstly, if this episode made you think differently, the single most helpful thing you could do is leave a rating on Spotify. It takes 10 seconds and it genuinely helps. And make sure you're following as well. And doing that does genuinely help this show reach more speakers who need to hear. Secondly, make sure you're following the show wherever you're listening, because next week I've got a conversation you really don't want to miss. That will be my conversation with the multi-Emmy award-winning comedy writer, Beth Sherman. She's not just a comedy writer, she's a professional speaker. And honestly, it's one of the most valuable conversations I've had on this show all year. So don't let that one slip past you. So thank you for listening. I genuinely appreciate you tuning into the show and giving us your time. And until the next time we connect, go and do something worth talking about. See you next time.